Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man with the golden smile. Karl Bryan is on the program today.
Shoots. How's it going, Road Dog? What's happening, my man? What's happening?
Just just another week. Just trying to crush it, as they say, as per usual, and as we continue to test new things, my friend. That's it. If I had to, the word of the week is test. How's that?
That's well done. Number of experiments per week is a good stat for everybody to keep for their clients and themselves, and I don't think people experiment. So high five, my brother.
Well, the last time I think you experimented was in high school, but it's for another day, I think. Or was that at Red Deer College? It's hard to say.
Folks, holy smokes, dude. That's absolutely not that. Anyways, keep going, shit.
Anyways, on that note, folks, hey, you know what? While we're at it, why don't you, on that note, why don't you give us something random that you've been thinking about, like to say over the weekend? Now that I've put that seed in your brain, let's see if that alters your thinking here. But what's something random that's been on the old noggin?
Shoots, you're a classic, dude. I don't. That's just hilarious. Anyways, what am I going to say? So something random. Something random. What am I going to say? You know what? So 3 mentors would be something random. Everybody should have 3 mentors. And what would they be? I think you should have. So my mentor is like 10 years ahead of me, right? So that's like, and again, very important though. You don't just pick somebody. I think that some people pick mentors, but they're in a completely different category, in a completely different world, or they're, you know what I mean? Like, you want your mentor, your mentor needs to be 10 years ahead of you, but then you want to be fundamentally who and where your mentor is. Or in my opinion, by the way, there's a bunch of different ways of looking at this. But that, generally speaking, you want to follow in their footsteps. That is an excellent mentor to have. But then I think people pick that mentor, and then don't have others. And I think you should have like another one who I want you to think of a colleague to grow with. So that person would be, parallel, be running, side by side with you. And then the idea is that you could push them and they push you, up and down, up and down, up and down. And somebody you can, lean on and be very empathetic towards, and can have empathy towards you, and some of the struggles and some of the successes, etc. And then I think another one, I know when I played hockey, this was always really important to me. I loved having a young guy. When I became one of the old guys, I wanted to have a young guy on the team. It was really important. I see NHL teams and football. Well, NHL teams as an example that I understand, that's hockey. I understand their world a little more than I do, say, like the NFL. And like having a rookie on the team is I just find it to be really, really important. Everybody wants to bring them up. So I believe that one of your mentors should be somebody, let's say 5 to 10 years your junior. And that's not necessarily an age, by the way. Really, in this context, I would be thinking about 5 or 10 years behind where you're at in your journey, or certainly behind. And then you go, okay, well, I'm new. At the end of the day, you just got to pick somebody who wants to, follow along. So anyway, so you should have somebody 10 years ahead. You should have a colleague to run with, and then you should have a rookie who you can inspire, and who can also inspire you. And I think that gives you, just on our hockey teams, it always provides just a little bit of youthful enthusiasm in the dressing room. And if you understand sport, you know how important the dressing room is. It's not just about game time. It's about the dressing room and practice, etc. So, anyways, I think that's that would be something random. Remember a real mentor. So when I say mentor, a real mentor can tell you what not to do, right? Like something I wrote down recently is like how you earn your money is far more important. No, how you earn your money is not nearly as important as what you do with your money. Okay, like again, that new car smell is just so lame, and you learn that once you've bought a number of new cars, you realize how it's just silly. Do you know what I mean? You're just paying 30% more for your car than you could otherwise. And nobody, and frankly, I think when you go for that new car smell, it's more about what people think than what you think in a lot of ways. And I think maybe you should own that one new car and get the new car smell because maybe everybody deserves that. But I wouldn't necessarily make that a trend if your goal is to be wealthy. And by the way, that goes for folks that would be considered quote unquote wealthy. You'll often find folks that have, let's just say made it, and you will find that they will be doing, they'll be very frugal. If you know how much, look, let me say it differently. If you knew how much you spent on cars, like just go over the last 10 years between insurance, cars, car payments, probably some interest in there, maybe you're leasing. Again, if you look, you might want to be leasing it as opposed to owning it. If you've got a profitable company, you probably should be leasing it. So you've got that you've got the tickets, you've got the parking, you got the parking ticket. I specialize in those. I got one on the weekend. Anywho, but you know what I mean. So if you look at how much you spend on vehicles, you'd be blown away, possibly really, really disappointed. And when you look at that that revenue or that money, that hard cash, and what you could otherwise done with it, you might be blown away. So a real mentor can tell you what not to do. Is how I got there. So when you're thinking about the person underneath you, you're guiding them in that respect. When you're thinking of your colleague back and forth, think of it in that respect. And certainly the person that you're going to choose who's 10 years ahead, they've got to be able to, they got to be able to tell you where when you're driving along and there's like a sign, deer crossing, and then there's a sign, rocks could be falling from the mountains beside you, what have you. Like they got to be able to, they need to be those signs, right? I don't know, shoots. Something actually, I'm thinking about in fact, truthfully, I've got my phone open and I'm looking at my notes because that's what I do on a regular basis. I capture notes. So Road Dog caught me off guard. Um, and I just wrote down, when somebody's really successful, I don't know how relevant this is or what to even take from this, but you will find that they send emails with a very small, like punctuation is not something they're going to specialize in, and often no capitals. And if you've received an email from me over the last decade, you will find that you'll probably be disappointed in my grammar and wonder why I never put a period and why I don't, put like a big B at the beginning of a sentence. And I don't, and that's not, I don't know, but I just can tell you that, and I'm not putting myself in the uber successful group. Don't, you know what I mean? Whatever. I'll just tell you, have a look at your emails from people who you would classify as highly and legitimate successful. Have a look at their emails and you might find that they're not spending a lot of time. And I just think that they're not sending them, you know what I mean, to impress anybody. So I don't know. Take that for what it is. Maybe when people are a little bit too polished, and I would go to the influencer on Facebook and their cute Rolls Royce and the photo with the Lambos with the doors up and the jet and everything else with all their buds. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit on the polished side versus the way the uber successful guy. Go have a look at his Facebook page, and I don't think you're going to see any of that. Um, another thing is we were talking about wives earlier, right? Husbands. Who you partner with matters. And I think that you should be thinking about, depending upon where you're at, right? But depending upon where you're at in your marriage, but I think you could definitely guide your partner a little bit, and maybe you're the one that needs to be guided as possible. But who you partner, if you want to be wealthy, who you partnered with is going to be really, really important. If you've ever gone through a divorce, you know that your money is not halved. It's like wave goodbye to 75% of it sometimes. That's after the lawyers and everything else. So the person you want to marry, the person you want to partner with, and maybe this goes for business partners as well, but you want to marry the one that says, you got this. I'm proud of you and how hard you work. You want to be married the person that says, keep bloody going. And then I would say take a hard pass on the one that says, aren't you finished yet? Or like, from a frame, I'll just, you know what I mean? There's a million other things they could say with that, you know what I mean? Same sort of, frame is that, stop concentrating on that and start concentrating on me and not pushing you. And I think for up here, this, I'm speaking to the entrepreneurs, but obviously if you're listening to this, you are. If talking to the guy working at the telecommunication company and been, working for the government, my advice would probably be altered there, but well, maybe it wouldn't be, by the way. But hopefully, you know what I mean? This is speaking to a pure entrepreneur. You want to get ahead, you got to work your bloody butt off. Hiding from that fact is crazy, and you need somebody who accepts that, supports that, and will not only support you, but potentially help in pushing you. I think anyway, so that's that's what I'm going to say to that. It's supposed to be bloody hard, right? Or everybody would be doing it. And I'm going to leave us with this one here, Road Dog. Here is something this is kind of over the last month, something I've been giving a lot of thought, and I have written right here in front of me on my my note on my phone, and it's exact words: loneliness is an epidemic. Right? Great problem to solve. How to solve it? Frankly, I don't know. I will tell you this, that I think we might have said this last week or the week before, but one of the things that I have tried to do as a frame is I'm not looking to get an invite to a party. I want to be the one throwing the party, right? Like Road Dog, you know that at my house, right? Like we've had parties and we have a party. We get, my wife, she'll organize a live band, and I mean, it is fun, and it's, probably goes a little later than ideal. Um, that's if you're my neighbor. But anyway, you know what I mean? But we do that respectfully. But you get the idea. We will throw some pretty decent parties. But rather than trying to get invited to the party, being the one throwing the party, think of live events, right? Again, I don't want to get an invite to the event. I don't want to be sitting in the audience of the event, although I have done that. Would do that, but that's not what I'm doing. I don't wake up in the morning and go, golly gee willikers, I can't wait to go to that event, right? Get on the plane and go sit there and learn from somebody. What I'm doing is I'm like, I want to create the event, right? And then control it. So anyway, so that's what loneliness is an epidemic. That's a great problem to solve. And I think local live events and that type of thing could help with that. Actually, did we say this recently? Denmark, I think I said this, but I'm going to say it again. I think it's important. It runs perfectly in line with what I just said in the loneliness epidemic. The happiest people in the world by by research and a lot of science or a lot of statistics. Sorry, Denmark are the happiest on average, and if you reverse engineer that, you will find that like 92+% of them are part of a social group, right? Like they have a social, they're part of a social group. North Americans don't think like that. Quite frankly, don't have that. I remember when I lived in Australia for a very long time. They were far more, social group. Like one of the things you'll do is you'll play footy, right, which is Australian rules football, let's say, right, like where I lived in Australia, that's referred to as footy. And you will play for the junior club, and then you'll play in the, you know what I mean, like the men's league, and then you even play in the seniors league of the same club. And you've got like a club, like literally a club room, and they have like Saturday night, and you're part of the club. So you support the club, and you donate to the club, and you sponsor the club, and you support the juniors coming up through the club. That's just the way they do it. In North America, we just don't have that. And so that brings me to think business club, right? Like what kind of business club? Road Dog, you go on the founders hike, right? Every Tuesday. That's your club. Like you love it. You post it on Facebook. You talk about it all the time. And I know it's been incredibly rewarding for you, right? And back then I went, right? And I thought it was absolutely fabulous. So anyway, so that's I don't know. That's lonely. I don't know. That might provide some value out there, both if you're the lonely one, and maybe what you need is you got to be thinking about a social club you can join. And then you also might want to think about creating the social club that's going to stop, because at the end of the day, solving loneliness is not something, that's like saying, I'm going to solve world peace, right? You're going to have to do that one small bite at a time and start with you. So anyways, shoots, that's what I got, man. That's my random thoughts.
I was just going to lead into that for a second too, and kind of go, do you see obviously value in terms of creating groups and group coaching programs and sort of regular, perhaps get-togethers for your clients? Is there do you think that's a value as well, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yes, yes, and yes. That's exactly, take all of your clients. You know what I mean? And put, we do that at focus.com, right? Where our clients, it's a community, right? We go to Cancun. It's the people that come to Cancun to business coaching mastery. They get so much more involved in what we're doing. They stay literally some of the people we did our first business coaching mastery. I don't know, it's very close to a decade. A ridiculous percentage of the people that came to that original event are still clients. It's crazy. So yeah, take all of your clients and create a little club, where they get together and you go to Vegas and you go on a, fishing expedition, you go on a cruise together, you do that kind of thing. Yes, and I think it takes a little bit of outside the box thinking. Imagine where that could go. And by the way, Road Dog, really importantly, this should go to your strength. Like if you love to cruise, if you hate boats, taking everybody out on a cruise would be a horrible idea, right? You love to play poker. Well, you could organize a poker gig for your clients. And then, by the way, if your clients, if they hate poker and you're their coach, maybe you're not the right fit for them and they're not the right fit for you. And that, by the way, that's a very general statement. I don't want to say because you like poker, all your clients got to love poker. Absolutely not. But hopefully you get the frame, right? That if, yeah, I don't know. That's, so yes, yes, and yes. And I think it's a huge problem. And I think it's a very exciting one to think about solving. That's why I wrote it down.
Now switching gears, because I know that over the last, I don't know how many years it's been now. You kind of got into being a bit of a nerd in terms of getting, numbers and accounting and that sort of thing. Anything accounting wise? Because we haven't talked about that in a while. Is there anything new there that you're sort of, kicking around and thinking about, maybe some new learnings that you've got on that?
Random. Well, so, as you know, I love the way you started with nerds. So yes, I am a nerd and I'm happy with that. I don't, there's so much like net income, net profits, bottom line, retained earnings all mean the same damn thing, right? That should startle you, confuse you, and let you know that maybe their goal is to confuse you. And the answer is hard yes. Like a company with inventory has to use accrual accounting. And then say if you're a coach, a consultant, a realtor, a mortgage broker, like in other words, you don't have inventory, you could use cash accounting if you chose. By the way, accrual accounting would always be recommended, but at the end of the day, you could use cash accounting if you don't. If you're like a coach, a realtor, and your client is a realtor, your client is a mortgage broker without inventory. The most important thing is you got to look. It's just not that bloody hard, so don't be intimidated by it. There's 3 financial statements that you need to understand only. There's probably 100 of them, but there's 3 that matter, and they're just not that complicated if you dig deep. And one of the things, like when I do live events and whatnot, we did a 4-day training on how to read financial statements. You got to understand a balance sheet, right? Pretty basic, balance, draw a line through the middle, and the left-hand side has to match with the right-hand side. That's why it's called a balance sheet. It needs to balance. There's an income statement, or what's otherwise known as profit and loss. Once again, they try to confuse the hell out of you. Profit and loss. So understanding that's really just quite simply revenues at the top, expenses at the bottom. You work out your gross profit margin towards the top, which is just cost of goods sold. Real simple. The higher gross profit margin is like the holy grail. So understanding gross profit margin is something that's very important. As I say that, you don't understand it. That's something that you should, as a business coach, as a business consultant, guiding entrepreneurs, young, your age, 10 years, ahead of you, the same, or 10 years your junior, you should understand gross profit margin, not that complicated. So those, yeah, I don't know, just like some random, it's not that intimidating. Dive in. Like maybe on a separate note, here's more about like a random thought. Like, so there's Joe Rogan and then there's Tucker Carlson, right? Um, One signed a decade, I don't even know, is it a decade long? It might have been I don't even know, a decade long agreement with a platform, quote unquote, right, which is Spotify, and like went all in. And to a large degree, I think it's fair to say that Joe Rogan is controlled a little bit by Spotify, right? Um, Tucker Carlson, right? I don't know, freelancing is the right word, but like he's taking total ownership over his own material, his own intellectual property, his own interview skills, his own skills, and he's betting on himself, so to speak, right? After 30 years of being in the meat grinder of media, and obviously he was, if you don't know, he's like the main, the very high profile, let's call it, at Fox, right? Fox News. Um, so I don't know. In 10 years' time, when we look back, right, at the numbers, accounting 101, right, value, and where the two end up, I'm really interested to see how that all shakes out. You kind of follow me there, Road Dog? Like, right? See the way, like Joe Rogan kind of signed his life away, let's say, and Tucker Carlson basically said, I'm going to control this and see where I end up. And I'm dying to see how it all pans out. So, yeah, there's my answer, Shoots.
Well, and Tucker actually turned down $1 billion deal from Patrick Bet David too.
Yeah, was that, yeah, 100? I think it was, yeah. There's some obscene number, but yeah,
It's
very
crazy.
interesting. Very
You and I have
interesting.
talked about this too. It's just like with everything going on, and especially politically, right? It's nobody trusts the media anymore, and it's interesting seeing the shift in media, how we digest news, where we go, the sources we go to,
Yeah,
all of that. Just our habits are changing. It's crazy. It's crazy watching all these cable companies just continue to just deteriorate. It's crazy. It's wild. It's
like
crazy.
when 6 o'clock. Like again, my dad still like the 6 o'clock news. Like remember we were growing up, like that was a thing, right?
Yeah.
6 o'clock news. I mean, you kidding me? Six
Yeah.
o'clock
Well,
news. I mean, if
yeah.
by the
Now you.
time if it at 6 a.m. and it's 6 p.m., you know what I mean? Like those 12 hours, it's like a lifetime ago. It's old news, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
Well,
kind of
now
wild.
you're on X, getting all the latest updates. Still doesn't roll off the tongue, bud. It's tough. Hey, speaking of Rogan and Musk and all these guys, anything on your brain in terms of politically, just for giggles there, or because we could have a lot of fun with Canadian politics and the question of why did Trudeau have a band-aid on his forehead and the next day there's a divorce announced? Perhaps a stiletto flying at his head. I don't know if that's a thing, but anyways, how about you? Got anything going through your little noggin there in terms of politics?
Shoots, you're trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? Was that the goal?
100% correct. Yes.
And political, okay, let me tell you this. Have you noticed just recently, right? So as we record, right? Um, for multiple years, Joe Biden, you wouldn't see anything negative about him nor Hunter, his son, in the media. Okay. By the way, maybe I'm wrong. Go have a look, and then you tell me, right? But you see all kind of negative stuff on Twitter, or now formerly known as Twitter, right? It's like the Prince thing. The platform formerly known as Twitter. There we go. There's a new name for it. Um, X, like you'll see it all there, but you won't see it in the mainstream media. Now, if you looked at it, if you look over the last, I'm going to say 90 days, you are going to see that there's a bunch of negative stuff about Biden, right? And Hunt, and his son, and he's in all kinds of trouble in the courts to do. And my opinion, and only my opinion, and I'm happy to be wrong. And again, I don't really, you know what I mean? Just whatever, right? I'm just following along as a spectator. It's that they don't want by the Democratic Party. Now I'm getting political, but they don't want Biden to go for reelection, right? They you know what I mean? They want RFK or whoever they want somebody new to come in. So all of a sudden you're seeing all this negative stuff and it's everywhere. So that's my little, and that's just me as a spectator, by the way. I don't know. Go have a look at mainstream media and see if I am right, see if I am wrong. But my poor observation sees that. You know what? I'm going to get away from this, but I'll just tell you this. If Trump gets elected, Biden goes to jail. If Biden gets elected, Trump goes to jail. And it's just an insane time to be alive. And let's just drop that there. So
And
that's
if RFK Jr., do they both go to jail? Is that how that is? Maybe. Right? Just put them all away. See you later. Anyways.
No comment.
That guy's been doing one heck of a job just getting out on social media and stuff too. It's pretty crazy to see. But anyways, let's get away from politics.
Yes.
But actually, before we get away from politics, now that you've basically moved to Turks and Caicos, are you when you plan your return to Kelowna, is the mayoral seat still an ambition of yours at this stage in your political?
No.
That's it. Just like that, folks. Right? Who's happiest right now? Tom Dyes, our mayor, is probably like, oh, thank God I don't have to compete against the unofficial mayor of Kelowna, Karl Bryan. Anyways, all right, bud. I got a question for you because we get this quite a bit. You always hear this: the customer is always right, and like I don't know how, because I think probably much like you, we could probably argue both sides of this, but I like, do you agree? Like the customer is always right. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, nice one. Again, you got to be very, when you hear something, right? And it's like, let's face it, everybody listening, there's nobody that is listening to this who hasn't heard the saying, the customer is always right, right? So could be like this throwaway line, and then you don't even realize it, drilled into your subconscious mind is that you believe that to be truth, right? So I'd be a little bit careful on that one. And I would dare say that your staff is always right, right? Like who's dealing with your clients? And the answer is your staff. And clearly there's a balance there. But shoots, again, let's just go to frames. Like we love to talk in frames, which I think have more power than thinking, different, just think of a framework, right? That you could go outside the frame, but as a frame, this is the way it is. And that's that it's not who's right, it's what's right. Right? Like, let's say you have a staff member and she is getting harassed or he is getting harassed, right? That the client is most certainly not right, right? Or like my wife is Métis, right? My kids are Métis. If you had a native staff member and a client was, I don't know, racist or mistreated them on the basis of something like that, if you didn't, it would kill your staff morale if you didn't do the right thing there, right? So always remember your greatest successes will always come through other people. And I'll also say this as a frame, like introduce, we've said this lots, right? But introduce me to a $10 million company and I'll introduce you to a recruitment company, right? So you want to be thinking of yourself and you say, okay, well, I'm not at $10 million, right? But wouldn't it be powerful to be thinking about yourself as a recruitment company? Like if you want to have a great coaching company, but want to know the secret sauce, have great clients, right? So be thinking of yourself as a recruitment company, early on, and you're recruiting clients, you're recruiting joint venture partners, you're recruiting staff members, etc. And always remember this, shoots, right? Like people support things they help create. So you want to make sure that your clients, that doesn't talk to your clients, that talks to your staff members. And I think that's really, really important. And like in my company, one of the things we've really, really prided ourselves on and things we've worked really hard on was, looking after our folks. And I've had like Craig McLean has worked for me for 15 years, like a little brother. Adrian Olsh and we actually just had our 14-year anniversary as business partners. Total legend. Love the guy. I think I mentioned that on a podcast recently. Chris Kling has worked for us for 9 years. Danny, my bookkeeper, has worked for me for over 10. I should actually know this number, but I believe it's just shy of 10 years or just over 10 years. Jericho builds a lot of stuff for us. He's worked for us for 9 years. So anyway, so that, look after your folks, and as a frame, your recruitment company. And yeah, so there you go, Shoots. That's the customer is not always right. It's not who's right, because that speaks to who, and really it is what is right. That's the foundation. And I would dare say, if you had to go, somebody was right over the other. You really need to be seen to supporting your staff member, which is a different way of saying really, really protecting the culture of your company. So, but again, if your staff members are wrong, that frame breaks down completely, and you got to go to what's right, not who's right. So that's my answer, Shoots.
I guess I would just add to it. It's like my initial thought just goes to why it's the whole right and wrong, right? Like why does it have to be by saying, well, the customer is right, that means then that other person is wrong? Doesn't make them wrong, right? That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure if I'm oversimplifying that, but it's sort of like, it's not, if anything, it's, as a staff, it's always good to know that, your superiors, if you will, right? The people that are above you have your back. But at the same time, I don't think it has to be necessarily, well, you were wrong in that instance. Like, well, no, it's an opportunity to learn, right? Everybody makes mistakes, and it's just avoiding.
You know what, Shoots, you just reminded me of so here's a frame, because let's try to give them a frame, right? So always talk about I think my slide in Cancun might have been last year, the year before, and it was like the money is in C or the money is in 3. And what I mean by that is there's like option number 1, option number 2, and then the money is in number 3, right? Or it was A. I can't remember. It was A. The money in A, or it's A, it's B, or it is C. But the reality is the money was in like the third option. So let me give you an example of that. So Road Dog, we got a client, and the guy says, should I sell it or should I keep going? Right? And it's like, should I sell? Should I not sell? That is option number 1. That is option number 2. And then immediately as a frame, I would go to option number 3. And that what could option number 3 be there for a successful company to sell or not sell? So what about if they franchised, as an example, right? Would that be an option? And little red arrow, you are here. My question is, why do you want to sell? And you've got to understand their motivations. Like, is the guy 70 years old and wants to retire? Is the guy 70-year-old and wants to, you know what I mean, and has 2 kids and he's frustrated at the fact that they don't want to take it on, so he's going to do X, Y, Z? And I would say to him, well, why don't, okay, so your 2 kids don't want to take it on, but you don't want the business to die. What if we found somebody 10 years your junior for you to mentor, and then basically have them move up towards, them taking over the company? And then he goes, well, how am I going to get somebody who's going to become that knowledgeable that quickly in our business? And I would just say, well, I don't know, but let's go find the number 2 guy for the number 1 competitor, right? And maybe the number 2 guy loves being the number 1 guy at your company, and he doesn't want to be the number 2 guy at the competition any longer. He doesn't see a road. But you see how, should I sell? Should I not sell? And then option number 3 is we could franchise. Or maybe option number 3 is that you take a step back and become, chairman, and then you bring somebody in as a CEO, pay them real money with real incentives, real bonus structure, and have them take over the company. And then you effectively consult to your own company, right? Because what happens is often the guy will take the company, he will sell it, and he will then get horrifically bored, or frankly run out of money. Conversation for another day. Or feel like he's running out of money, or she is running out of money, which, imagine going from very wealthy to feeling like you're running out of money. I think that would be enjoyable. And then what they do is they become what? They become consultants, right? So it's like, instead of selling your company, why don't we bring in somebody, your junior, and then you consult them in your own company and maintain. And by the way, find a way for them to become an owner of the company, be a shareholder in the company. You maintain X amount. You know what I mean? So then you're continuing to earn. But no doubt you could see how the frame of it is that instead of going, should I buy, should I sell? I go to number 3 as the frame, right? And I could give you a million examples of that. Should I take on a business coach? Should I not take on a business coach? Well, what's number 3? Take me for a test drive for 3 months, right? You see how that is a frame? It's like an option number 3, and give them that option, right? So anyway, so that's yeah, I could give you a bunch of different examples, but hopefully that everybody grabs that. But the recruitment, how did we get there? Is the customer always right? And it's like, look, are they right? Are they wrong? Look, let's always look for option number 3, where it's like, hang on a minute, maybe there's a real awesome learning lesson for everybody, the staff member, the client, for you, for the company, for the culture, for the other staff members. But don't go right or wrong. Be looking for a number 3. Hopefully that helps. But yeah, there you go. That's what I got.
I actually think Dan Martell has a framework around. I think he calls it the 1-3-1 frame, where it's like, what's the one problem? What are the 3 options? And then what is the best one solution as a result of those 3?
See, that's a frame. 1-3-1. What is the one problem, 3 solutions, and what's the best problem of the 3 solutions? I get that right?
Yeah, the best solution of the 3 options. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, there you go. That's okay. That's different, but same in many ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, very cool. Like it.
Yeah, but again, back to, as we're saying, it's not black or white. There, like, what there could be a third option, right? There could be pink, right? Like, whatever it is. So anyway,
You've gone to see Barbie, I can tell.
shockingly, having a 13-year-old, I have not seen that stupid movie yet. That is definitely. Then again, I could, me, I'll be like, no, I'm not seeing it, and all it takes is my daughter going, hey, do you want to come with me? And of course, I'm like, yes. Anyways, speaking of options and not knowing what to do, this is a great question, and we're going to close out on this one. This is going to be relatable, I think, for a lot of people, Carl. So it's coaching can be tricky, man. And we got a question that came and says, I've been coaching for a little over a year, and I have come to the conclusion I'm lost. Wondering if this is normal.
Is that literally the wording? They've
Yes.
come to the conclusion they're lost?
Yeah, I'm lost.
Okay. I'm with you. I have empathy. I'm lost too.
And I swear to God, let's see if Carl can answer this question without little red arrow, you are here.
Yeah. That's not going to happen. I'm going to disappoint you. But look, by definition, right? The reason is you do not know where you are, and you do not know where you're going, right? So if you were driving and you had a map, but you had no idea where you were on the map, nor where you wanted to go, look, you'd be lost, right? Like you have a map, but the map is useless because you don't know where you're going, right? So guess what, Shoots? Little red arrow, you are here.
Ding, 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 ding. There it is, folks.
Yeah. But then pick a clearly defined destination, right? Were you going to say something, Shoots?
No, I was just going to say, for those playing bingo at home, Carl Bingo, we should really establish that. Little red arrow, anywho, we haven't had Tom Brady yet today, by the way, and we haven't had the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. But anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your train of thought there, but there you go, little red arrow, you're here. Mark it on your maps.
Beautiful. So, but you need the little red arrow. You're going from LA to New York. You need to know that you're in LA, and you need to know that you're going to get to New York. And if you know anything about like air travel and having an airplane, I mean, they're off course the majority of the time between the two destinations, and the pilot is hired and tasked with getting it back on course, getting it back on course, getting it back on course, getting it back on course. Like that's literally what they do. And no doubt, that if they're off by just a small variance, like 1-2%, they end up in the wrong country in the wrong city. Certainly nowhere. They don't end up in a suburb of New York. They end up like in a completely different city, if not state, if not country, right? So, and maybe again, you want to use your mental model here, right? Like the mental model of 10-10-10 feels like it makes sense here. And that's like basically 10-10-10 is a mental model with results and outcomes over 3 time frames. So think like 10 minutes, 10 months, 10 years, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years, right? Like, so 3 time horizons. So, and the destination is critical because otherwise you end up following the red Ferrari that drives by, right? Like you follow that when a Ferrari drives by and you like Ferraris, you speed up. If you don't like Ferraris, like a lot of the gals, they won't even notice the Ferrari going by. But if you're a guy and you're in the cars and a Ferrari drives by, you speed up as he goes by, right? Why? You want to be close to the Ferrari. Okay, what's the equivalent of that when you're on Facebook? That's the Facebook post by a guy with the rented jet, the rented Rolls Royce, the Lambo with the doors up, um, the Cadillac, the Porsche, whatever it is. And then you end up going in their direction, not your own. In other words, not to New York, but you end up in Alaska, or actually New York and Alaska. That's a long way away. They're like really bad. But that guy on Facebook is really doing a horrific job. But no doubt you get the idea, right? You'd end up like in Canada or Europe. So that their direction is not your direction, but it comes by as a red Ferrari, and it's very sexy, and it's very cool, and it's very hip, and it feels like it's very on trend. Uh, Bitcoin coaches, cough, cough, right? That kind of thing. Where did they all go, right? So, and then maybe just like an example, right? So, live events, you want to run a live event every week for the rest of the year, no deviation, just flat out work to get there, right? Like make a list, first of all, make a list of reasons why you're going to make this happen and not deviate, right? You got to pick a venue. And when you pick a venue, you got to be thinking parking and traffic, very important, right? You got to book the venue, right? You got to pay the venue. Don't go, oh, if I could actually find some people, I'll come and pay. Like pay the damn venue, put your money down. Get a list of business owners in the area that are suitable. Get a list of JVs of people, JVs in that area, right, where you're trying to fill the event. You got to create a script, got to create an email, got to create a text message, create a voiceless, a voicemail list, or what am I trying to say? A voice, like a message you're automatically going to leave. What am I trying to say? I don't know. But anyways, a private message, a
A
Facebook.
voicemail?
A what? What am I trying to say?
Are you trying to voicemail? Is that what's tripping you up?
Yeah,
What's
because
like a voice message?
yeah, ringless voicemail script. That's what I'm trying to say. But you know what I mean? Like just boom, you ring and it just automatically leaves it, right? You got to create a landing page. You got to start friending and connecting with people on your list on social media that you chose, right? On that list. You got to contact them and you got to 100% commit to getting 10 bums on seats for those first few events, right? Those first 3 events, get your snowball rolling. You got to highlight the JV. If there's an accountant, there's 10 people in the room and one is an accountant with 400 clients, guess what I'm doing? I'm zoning in on the accountant and I'm making him part of the presentation or her part of the presentation because I'm going to tell you, they're not going to, their subconscious mind afterwards are like, oh my gosh, this was like a really great presentation. You did a really, really good job. Well, part of that is because I made them part of the presentation, right? Asking questions like, what do you think is a really successful accountant with how many clients? You got 400? How many? They're like 400 clients. Whoa, my gosh. You're a busy gal. You're a busy guy. Like, you know what I mean? But be very careful here not to ham it up too much or you look lame. But no doubt you get the idea that that one JB would be more important than the other people in the room, right? So, um, yeah, that's what I would, that's what I'm going to say, Shoots. Like you feel lost because you don't have that target. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you know what I mean? You just got to create that. You got to create that target, but you also need to. But then you can have big dreams, right, with huge plans. Um, but you got to establish your little red arrow is that your plane is on the ground. So, like, and by the way, when you talk big and then don't act big, right, you're just, you know what I mean? I have a look, that's not what you want to be doing. Let's put it that way. You're a pretender, right? Like again, be careful with that. And you're doing some damage to your, between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. You're not following through on your words. That's not going to create a good dynamic. Going to keep you sleepless, by the way. If you can't sleep at night, could be a little bit to do with that. You're not taking actions on the things that you're kind of putting out there and you're just leaving yourself wildly frustrated. Then you got 25 tabs open on your computer. I always talk about this, like the meals that you eat, right? Every meal is like a guessing game. And then you're worried about your friend's marriage and you got deeply, deeply involved. You all know those people that get deeply involved in their friends' marriages when maybe it's not 100% appropriate, right? Like, is that, look, and by the way, I'm not saying you don't help your friends out in their marriage. Not what I'm saying. So don't take that away. But my question is that, you know what I mean? Is that where you really need to be right now? Maybe where you need to be is ignoring that, making a list of the 7 meals that you're going to have, a meal plan for the entire 7 days. You're going to shut all of the tabs on your computer and have a really clean computer. You know what I mean? And you're just going to dial in on, what did I say? Putting 10 bums on seats for your event every single week, come hell or high water. And by doing that and following through on that, ultimately you become what we call internally like a local legend, but you follow through on that. And all of a sudden, getting clients, supporting clients, being a big deal in your local community becomes an automatic, so that then you would be able to get involved in your parents' or your friend's marriage, and it might be appropriate because you've actually got some time, because you've got your 10 clients, you've got your $200,000 a year, you've got your monthly nut well and truly covered, and you're doing real well, right? Like 2 things, Shoots. Clearly define the problem, clearly define the outcome. Do those 2 things. Again, picture a dartboard. You got to aim for the middle. You got to create your bullseye. And you do that, I think the answers become obvious. If you clearly define the problem properly, the solutions become almost like automatic. They're staring straight at you. But that sounds easy. It can be really, really hard to define the problem properly. So anyway, Shoots, clearly define the problem, clearly define the outcome. I think that this individual who's saying lost, if you look at it, they have got too many things going on, right? Like a bad example here, but it's just introduce me to somebody with multiple streams of income, and I'm going to introduce you to somebody with multiple streams of lame income, right? And that, of course, is a bit black and white, not always the case. But like if you don't have, okay, let me just speak to multiple streams of income real quick before we close that off. If you don't have one stream of income at $5 million a year, which is $400,000 a month, please don't talk about your multiple streams of income, or all you're doing is being silly. Put it that way. So that's my answer, Shoots. That's my answer.
Love it. Love that. It's funny when on a subconscious, right, you're saying I'm lost. Literally you are, because you don't know where you are and you don't know where you're going, and you have no clear roadmap on how to get there.
Shoots.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's why you're lost, right? And by the way, they might have one dialed in where they're trying to go, but then the problem is they don't know where they're at, or they don't, or it's the opposite, right? So,
right,
there you go.
Which is typically, well, yeah, that's pretty typical actually, but that's a whole.
But would you agree though, Shoots? Hardest thing you can ever, like, is that on a scale of 1 to 10? I want you to rank how difficult it is to be really, really honest with yourself with 2 things: where you're at, and then defining that destination really, really well. Is that like a 10 or a 1?
Well, the problem is the destination is, it's that whole, is it not dangerous? Here we go. We're going to go down a rabbit hole. Perhaps I don't want to go down this too much. This is good fodder for us over a couple of pints, because is it not dangerous to always just have this finite goal? Like, if there's so many things out there that say once you reach one peak, then you'll hit another. So is it just, well, don't worry about the big peak that you're going to hit. Worry about what is that, at least the next peak. Would that be something?
Yeah, but that's what you're defining as the plan, right? So again, like what did I say on my personal Facebook recently? It's like poor people have dreams, wealthy people have plans, right? So look, it comes back to this frame. You got to write down what you want 25 years. What's your goal in 25 years? What's your goal in 10 years? What's your goal in 5 years? What's your goal in 3 years? What's your goal in 1 year? What's your goal in 9 months? What's your goal in 6 months? What's your goal in 3 months? What's your goal in 1 month? And what's your goal in 1 week? And then define all of those. Start with the 25-year, and then you want them all to coalesce and all to rhyme, and then you're on. So I think that's the plan, right? So you want that big outcome, but then you got to bring it back to steps, right? Step by step.
Got it. Okay. Like that. And again, it's sometimes tough to admit where you are because your ego will get in the way.
That's what I want. Look, here's what I was looking for. I told there, you just nailed it, right? It's bloody hard to get really honest with yourself and really define where you're at, and then go big picture and really define well what you want. Honestly, it's not the hardest thing you'll ever do. It's up there with the hardest things you'll ever do, right? It's really bloody. And you seldom get it in one. So when you come up with it, the most, it's not the strong that survive, it's the most adaptable that survive. So you've got to be willing to be adaptable there. So it's hard. And just accepting that it's hard is important, because then you don't wonder why you can't just define what it is that you want. Because that sounds really bloody easy as we say it, right? Little red arrow, you are here, and then the destination. But it's bloody hard, mate. So there you go.
There you go, bud. But again, you will never, once you have the plan, it's committing to that plan and not giving up on the plan, and then always reassessing and being honest with yourself about where's the weakness. It's no different than what the project that we've been working on some of the challenges that I've run into. It's like, okay, well, great, but what are some good things that have happened as a result? And okay, then where do we need to improve? And that's where the testing and all that stuff comes in. But the biggest test, I think, that you're watching me, folks. This is, I feel like I'm doing this every week now, like a little vulnerable moment with the road dog here. But it's got to be interesting for you, a pretty good friend of mine, to sit here and go, the biggest test that's actually being completed at the moment is my perseverance.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Correct, man. Consistency, my brother. You'll be remembered in life for what you refuse to give up on, man. So,
in the words of the late, great Gord Downey of the Tragically Hip, no one's interested in something you didn't do.
Nice. And if you haven't heard of the Tragically Hip, look them up. The greatest Canadian band of all time, in my opinion. Maybe Rush.
100%.
Damn it.
100%. Right up there probably with Gowan and Mr. folks. All right. Those were definitely Karl's playlist back in his experimental phase at Red Deer College, folks. All right. On that note, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the great experimenter himself, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you're wondering how you too can get into Red Deer College, or just want Karl's daily emails, flash coaching, profit acceleration software, all of the things, go to focus.com, subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that all the streaming services give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.